Welcome to this episode of like Yumi Cells. Like overall, we're talking about Yumi Cells today. I finished Yumi Cells like last month, so it's in my May watches, and that's where we're gonna start off as well because I'm gonna read you my review that I wrote, and then we'll dive into everything else that I have to say. Because as a whole, obviously, I want to break down like Yumi's boyfriends because yes, because you know what I mean. They are right. There's something. I feel like also I might as well also get this out the way too, that on like the ranking list of all three of them, the ranking list goes like this. Um what's his name? Shinrock's at number one, Woong is second, and Babby's third. And yes. And it's like, guys, I'm like, you won't get me to change my mind. You can tell me what you think in the comments. Of course you can. This is a safe space. I would like you to say what you think. Do you know what I mean? And really, it's not even because when I was analyzing this and doing this whole thing, I was like, it's not really about it's not about who I think suits Yumi. It's actually about me. Like I'm actually that's what I'm saying. I think as viewers, it's about us. It's not really to say, oh my gosh, I'm saying this is who Yumi should be with. Because really I was kind of analyzing Yumi as well, not just the guys, because of course you have to. Because even what I just bought on my Substack, I said overall. So obviously if you are listening on Substack, yeah, I said overall two people are in a relationship, not just one. So I was like, let's bear in mind that I can't just, talk about her boyfriends and just say, do you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, like they're awful or whatever. I mean, I can, but I'm just saying. You also want to talk about like Yumi's, I don't know, like Yumi's ways of like being with them and how she kind of acts. So that's my thing, and we will be diving into that this whole entire episode because, as I said. I'm telling you. And for me, I'm always like when it comes to relationships, yes, one bears more blame. That's obvious. Like literally, you'll be like, yeah, look with your boyfriend. It's like, yeah, we said he cheated on you, and then we're just like, yes, but what else? That's what we're saying. Even though. Hold on a moment because we don't condone cheating here, but this is also what I want to say because it's still just a fact of the matter is that like there's just still like factors when it comes to these things anyways. So obviously this is also what I think about like Yumi's relationships with these guys because I'm just saying like I felt like Yumi felt like maybe yeah like all three of them was somewhat like I don't know going to be perfect, but that can't be the case, you know what I mean? And I sometimes even thought while watching the show I was like, we all aim to find like our perfect person. And I'm like, are you ever really going to find that? That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying, oh yeah, it's a bad thing, but I'm just saying, like, you have to accept people. I bet you have to accept people for who they are. Like, this is my whole thing. It's only if you have like proper like major issues. That's what I'm saying. If a person has like major issues, like clear red flags, then of course you're not going to stick around. That's completely obvious. But my whole thing is, if, do you know what I mean? If there's small little things, that's what I mean. I felt like Yumi picked up on not picked on, sorry, but I meant like, yeah, she had complaints about really tiny things that I feel like people might not like again have issues with. So that's why when I looked at these guys, I was like, first of all, I'm not coming from your place because I don't know what you want. I'm I'm coming from me. I'm coming from a place of what I think. Do you know what I mean? And what I think that how these guys would do. Do you know what I mean? And if that right, if I was with them, would I really stand for any of the things? Like probably not. I mean, to be fair, I would like try to sort it in some way, but I really would not be like I guess being in the same way that like Yumi went about things. But anyways, as I said, let me go through the written review that I got. And you can also read this obviously at my Substack, which is chan67substack.com. And it's where I usually write most of my yes, my monthly watches all throughout the year. I think I started doing monthly watches like was it last year or maybe the year before? I'm not sure. Can't really say. It was either last year or the year before. And I feel like it's good because I only decided to do monthly watches because, of course, as people, we all watch things throughout the month. And I was like, well, isn't it just obvious to like focus on one thing that you know you can write about for like, do you know what I mean? As in every single month, as in you always have something to write about. And I think for me, it just hones your writing skills also. This is the whole thing about like writing. It's the thing where you have to keep like at it, like not even yeah, that make it sound like yeah, like it's some kind of like chore. But again, yes, because like when you write, like, do you know what I mean? You only get better over time. It's the same thing with like art. Do you know what I mean? If you keep at like doing art for like years, you're going to get better and get to where you want to be. So my whole thing is I thought, yes, I need to have one thing that I know that I can write about continuously. Because, you know, sometimes of course it's harder to write about any of the anything else. But my whole thing is if you have one thing that you know is your passion and you love it, then you won't have any issues. Do you know what I mean? So obviously, as I said, yeah, May watches, but of course I will read out like the thoughts and feelings that I had about this season. So to start off, Sunrock grew on me instantly, and maybe because out of all the guys, I resonated with him the most, a homebody, like he said. Someone who finds it hard to match other people's levels and can only be on their time. When they get into the comfort of their own bedroom, it's where they shine and feel the most like themselves. Episode 7 didn't feel at all like a penultimate episode would feel like at all. By the second to last episode, the main couple should at least be together or have kissed. No, seriously. He answered her golden question her last two exes couldn't really answer, which to me cemented his place. Honestly, I was like, yeah, that's him in there. Of course, you have to be willing to break down the rules you've built up in order to succumb to someone. Absolutely, it's the same thing with walls. You can't love anyone with your walls up. By the last episode, I realized that he stole my heart in the ranking list and took Woong down a peg. I still stand on the fact that Babby has to be last, even though he supported her writing initially. I feel like to me, that's bare minimum to do that to support the career of the person you're with. But Sunrock abandoning his principles, someone so calculated who has to have strategy, won me over completely. Sunrock wasn't the first to propose to her, but it was definitely better than Babby's. He promised to her in a time of desperation, not when it was the perfect time. The one mistake Yumi made was giving Prime Cell to Writer Cell. If I'm honest, it should have gone to someone like Rational Cell, someone who always picks the right decisions. Writer Cell got power and let that power get to their heads, and the village didn't seem like a democracy. And I understand Yumi's doubts, even when it felt like it took a lot for Shinrock to ask her the question. But I feel like she was hesitant because it was something she always wanted, and her last two proposals was the first thing she thought of. She reflected on the past mistakes in order to make the right one. I do think that Sunrock didn't give her much reason to doubt him, like the others, mind you. When Woong didn't even answer when she asked him, so I didn't feel like it counted. I do agree with the whole sentiment that time doesn't matter, mind you, with how long you've been with someone. It matters about the feeling more so. And Sunrock ticked that certainty box, but that the other two couldn't. In this season, I have to admit, I realized a lot of things about Yumi. Sunrock getting her a ring reminded me of Woong buying her a computer and how she doesn't do so well with like material things or someone spending a huge amount on her. I wouldn't call it a flaw, but the person you love should be able to display their affections in a lot of different ways. Overall, I love this drama, and I'm sure it will stay in my heart for years to come. And then I wrote a quote that said, a quote from the show that said, "No two loves are ever the same shape." And honestly, they're not. I liked that moment a lot in the show because I was generally like, you know, Yumi was comparing, like. Yeah, like Babby and Woong to Sunrock, and I was like, well, they're not even, they're not even the same in any kind of way. Like, they're not in the same like font at all. So I was actually like, how could you relate them in any kind of way? Like, I think she kind of just thought, like, I don't know, it was interesting because with the last two, it would be like both of them were like perfect. I don't know, I guess in the beginning. But as I said in the write up, though, I just don't feel like in the entirety of her getting to know Shenrock, like I meant that okay, actually no, maybe she might have felt like she had a moment to doubt him, seeing as when she first met him he was really hot and cold, but that wasn't to do like exactly that wasn't to do with like her. That was to do with him, just as who he is, like how I spoke about his like being calculated, is the fact that he's just hard to like read, which I feel like most introverted people are. You know what I mean? They're not like open books, even though it does vary. I will say, because when I said that I relate to Shinrock, I will say as a introverted person, I would be like, well, like of course I understand it to some degree, but I would say that like it's not like, oh, I'm like Shinrock when it comes to, oh yeah, no, I want to keep work and personal life separate. That's not me. Like I might, yeah, I feel like of course when it comes to that, I would say I'm quite open, but I guess it always, that's what I'm saying. That's why I feel like it varies. It's a thing where it's a very up and down thing, but it's who you probably feel like comfortable opening to, and also as I said, just who you are as a like person, because that's what I'm saying. Like Shinrock was like, no, he doesn't want people to get too close to him. And also I guess his animal member was a reindeer. I mean, you know what's so weird, because I don't even think that Babby didn't even have an animal, I don't think. You know how like Woong, he had the frog, Shinrock had he had what was it? He had, yes, he had the reindeer, like I said. So the reindeer literally came to live in like Yumi's village. But then of course, like I said, I really don't think that Babby had one as such, except no, he didn't have one. He did have that weird, obviously that little drawing of him, but then that wasn't really like his thing. And then it didn't really come inside the village, if that makes sense. Because I remember in season two, so I feel like in season two, right, which of course is Babby's season, what happened was like, I think Yumi's love cell went to visit Babby's village, when like, you know what's so crazy, like I feel like, right, Woong and like yes, Wing and Sing Rock, like obviously they're two like kind of, I guess, objects, or not even objects, but I mean things that maybe what do you call it? Um personified them, sorry. So literally, so like the reindeer and then a frog. So then those were two things that came to knock on what was it? To came and knock, yes, on on Yumi's door, right? And then I just feel like, I think with Barry's like, right, his was weird. I don't even remember if maybe I think he really did he come down and just knock down her walls or something like that. But his was really weird. And also, if you bear in mind that like it didn't even really feel like that Yumi was really in love with him. And I also feel like because she just came out of her breakup, it was also another thing where it almost didn't feel like she was really in love with him either. And then I guess also you have to think about the fact that her love cell wasn't even really around as well. But the love cell was around for like, you know what I mean, for the first one and the last one. So it's a bit more like, right, it's a bit more confusing. And I think I thought that was in my write up, but I'm not sure. I think what was it? Like or actually no. When I did my Yumi Cells like season 2 write up, actually that was what I included, something about how because the love cell wasn't around, Yumi was like doing more like impulsive and reckless decisions, and like she wasn't obviously really thinking like, yeah, with her heart, I mean, which obviously that's usually what you're supposed to do. Do you know what I mean? If you think of your head, then obviously you're not going to make the best what's it called, rational decisions when it comes to like, yeah, Babby being like, okay, right, he just he just says, oh yeah, let's get married, and it's like, what, like why would you just randomly say that, especially like why would you say that when like you also just lied, and then it was like, what was the need for that? It was actually so random. It was so random, so weird. So obviously this is the whole thing, and then obviously Yumi said yes, and it was like, what, like why would you why would you say yes? And then it was the whole thing that like the love cell wasn't around, and if love cell was around, obviously love cell would have said no. And then you know what's crazy? Love Cell as well, when I think about it, Love Cell was the most skeptical anyways, actually. I remember like Love Cell, you'd think, because that's what I'm saying, you think with Love Cell anyways as like the prime sale, that obviously it would always be on Yumi's side and on Yumi's best interest. But it was like crazy because Love Cell was like, oh, like questioning Babby's intentions, all this sort of thing. So questioning him. So it was kind of like, oh yeah, like your Love Cell already knows like this is not like this, you know what I mean? This is not the right person for you and it's not gonna work out. Do you know what I mean? So it's actually crazy. When I think about it in that way, I'm like, yeah, it's crazy. And even when I go back to the whole animal thing, I'm saying yes, that's important too. Because like you do right want something, I guess, right. I mean, when they're coming into her village is very significant and powerful, and that means they're making such a huge impact on her. And I'm like, if that doesn't happen, then that goes to say that this might not be the right one. This might be the right one. And it's like, maybe you should have known that. And I feel like, yes. So anyways, let me even like start going through my notes anyways, because right now I was just like, I was just spitballing as you do. Wing never wanted to let her down, and a lot of the time let her call the shots in their relationship, especially when he moved into her place when he didn't actually want to. I don't know what you call that, but someone who puts their partner's happiness over their own. I was gonna say, no, with my note, because I did this episode before, and so I kind of had to do it again. I was having technical issues, but like I think I said at the time, I was like, I feel like Woon was a bit of a like people pleaser to me. That was kind of what I thought about him, only because, as I said about the happiness thing, it didn't. It felt like obviously he cared more about Yumi's, I meant, than his own, and also it was like. Right, like when I said when she said to him, "Oh yeah, you need to come into my place," after he was having a hard time, he should have obviously like. It's not even a thing like, oh yeah, he should have stood on business and been like, no, but it's almost like, yeah, if you don't want to, then yes, you should be able to say no type thing. But like, why should you feel like you're being forced into it? Because it's literally not like it's not a must. But I also didn't like how, I guess, he wasn't emotionally vulnerable with her, because he was having a hard time and he never once really thought that he could like, what's the word, he could really like confide in her or like even explain like what's happening. And I was just like, why? And like my whole thing is like, for me, it's like if you're someone, then of course you're gonna break all of that down, like I said about wars. Do you know what I mean? Back to wars, I was gonna say, if you're with someone, you're gonna break those down, and you're not gonna like, yeah, you're not gonna not be afraid to like have those feelings out there or put them out, or literally just exactly speak loudly about the way that you're feeling and confront those like scary feelings as such, because that's what I mean. It's just this is supposed to be a normal thing. Like how I even said at the start of this episode, safe space. You're literally supposed to have that in a relationship. Just like I feel like it's the bare minimum. That's what I'm saying. It's not even about something that you should like beg for. I'm saying it should like already be there. It's the foundation. If it's not there, then I think like, do you know what I mean? I think that's weird. I'm just like, you should be able to say that. So in a way, I do feel like at the time when him and Yumi were dating, like there was just so much. I think I did see on Google anyways. It was like, yeah, like I think it said something about how the downfall of Yumi and Woong's relationship was definitely miscommunication, and that's for sure. And this is the crazy thing. When I think about all three of them, I'm literally like, well, yeah, Woong's was miscommunication and like pride. And then Babi and Yumi, I would say like they had like, I feel like, okay, they had like the long distance thing, whatever. But the fact of the matter is I don't want to use that actually, because, and obviously Babi's last place for a reason, and I was gonna say I might anti Babi, but like yes and no. It's just like I would say that with the long distance thing is that like I don't feel like a long distance should like be able to break up relationship, of course, if that makes sense, because you know what I mean. I feel like, again, in terms of strength and like what is in a relationship, I mean, you should be able to like, I mean, like work through it, like as in if you have to be apart, I'm saying you should be able to work through it, and then if you work through it, then obviously it gets stronger, and then that just means that just means like your love grows even more. And that's the thing, the quote is absence makes the heart grow fonder, so we're like, that's what's supposed to happen, not like the other way around where it's like, oh, what was it? Yeah, where it's like, oh, just nothing. And then for me, there was also the other key part which annoyed me, where it was like, um I feel like Yumi and Mary didn't even have like, what was it, an emotional farewell, and I was like, what is that? I was like, where was the emotional farewell? That weirded me out. Like when he went on, I guess was it like the first trip, because we know he went on like bad trips, but like he went on like one trip, then he went on a second one, then again I think probably the last one, because the last one's obviously when he meets Daeyoung, but then I can't remember like the second one. But then all I'm saying is I feel like when he went on the first one, there was no like, oh my god, like Fabi, I'm gonna miss you. Like, do you know what I mean? It was none of that. And then of course when they were doing calls and that, but again, he'd be like, oh Yumi, I need to go now, bye. And it was just a bit like, okay, like this is weird. I was like literally like I didn't feel like, yes, you guys were putting effort in, but it also just wasn't like, again, I was like, it just wasn't enough for me. I was just like, it wasn't enough. And then, as I said, the farewell thing, I was like, that's weird. Because you expect to see that, I mean. And I feel like, especially in K dramas, because as we know, like, the yearning is like, it's A1. So I'm literally like, it's so up there. So it's literally like you expect for there to be this like emotional heartbreak, being like, oh my god, please don't go, and it's stuff like that, but it wasn't like that for them. So I was like, for me, that was a bit like, oh, I see, this is an indicator you guys' relationship actually is over. Like, do you know what I mean? In kind of like, in actuality, yes, it's over. It's not over yet though, but in mind it is, because it's like, obviously, if that was gonna happen, like that would obviously mean a lot. Do you know what I mean? It would mean how much you really care for one another, because obviously, yeah, obviously you really like each other. But anyway, back to her, and back to Yumi and Woong anyways. I said, and then I say next that, and to me, from the very beginning, it seemed like he liked her way more than she liked him, and she also wanted to mold him in her own image, like when she wanted him to shave his beard frequently, and um she wouldn't accept his natural form, which I found really strange. But I think also when I was recording the episode before, I did say something like, what was it? That I feel like it was about like how she met like all the guys. That's what I do feel like made it, like, as in made it significant. Like, obviously she met like Woong like through a blind date. So it was a bit like, okay, do you know what I mean? When it's blind date, you can't actually do anything about that. um you literally have to like accept it, or like, do you know what I mean? I've accepted or leave, that's it. So I kind of feel like this is the whole thing. When you think about her and Wing's relationship, it's kind of like, oh, if she had saw him on her phone, she probably would have swiped. Do you know what I'm saying? And then she meets Babby, and both Shinrock both at work. Do you know what I mean? Both at work and in person. So I feel like that probably does actually like, I do feel like it's quite significant in kind of like the relationships working out or whatever. And this is what I was saying. This is what I was saying before in the beginning, about like Yumi as a person, because of course, as I said, like she had such like small, what was it, I don't know, I was gonna say small perks, but like, yes, because of course she was always being like, oh, when you like, you look scruffy or whatever. Like, even I think for me, mainly my main one when she looked scruffy was when he came to her friend's wedding. That was the one for me, because I found that so weird and so rude at the same time, because obviously he came there like to support her, and then obviously she was like, oh, but like you told me you're gonna shave and you didn't. It's like, okay, why are we focused on that? Let's focus on the fact that he actually turned up and he is actually here. Like, he could have left you stranded, and then everyone in the church would have been like, "Oh, well, then your boyfriend doesn't exist." You know what I mean? So she would have had all of those issues. And that just gets long. But like, again, he showed up for her, and that was the main thing. But that was still her main focus, and I found that strange. And she was also upset about that when she first met him too. So again. Again, it just goes back to, I don't know, like, yeah, her and appearance. But the fact of the matter is, all three of them are all like, that's what I'm saying, or equally, they're all good looking at me, and so I don't really know. I was like, first of all, I mean, maybe it's just like with Woong anyways, he was probably, I guess, I don't know. I was gonna say the most polar opposite to her, maybe. Maybe that's what I would say. I feel like, yes, because I guess what, because he's a gamer, and then like the other two, they're very much more like what do you call it, business focused, and then Woong only becomes business focused a bit later into the show, but of course not at the very beginning. Even though you could say him having, wanting to create his own game, that still means he's business focused, just not in the way that, like, I don't know, not in the way that it matters, maybe. I don't know. People have their different, I guess, perceptions of, what do you call it, of success. So it's a bit like, yeah, you like, we might be working on his game, but like it's not doing well. So it's a bit like, oh, like, okay, fine, like you're doing it, but like, do you know what I mean? It's not really like doing anything. So I think maybe that would have been her perspective, and that's why I mean with the other two guys, they're both guys from her work setting who she can see are both doing well. Like, when you even look at like someone like you Babby, everyone liked you Babby, like even her cells were crazy about him, and then you could literally see that even people at work were crazy about him. So it was a bit like, oh, you can actually see, like, he must be somebody who you know what I mean, someone who's great. But the fact of the matter is, I feel like with you Babby anyways, that he's good on paper, but like as I said, but I feel like in actuality he's not that great. That's what I'm saying. I kind of viewed him in that way, I feel, from that whole season. That was kind of my perception. At first, it was like, oh, yeah, like they kind of, yes, set him up to be like, oh, yeah, he must be perfect. He must be amazing. But it's like afterwards, you're a bit like, no, no. It's a bit like, yes, exactly. It's like a bit of taste in your mouth because it's like, oh, yeah, oh, this guy is perfect. But it's like, no, not really. It's like, wait until we get to inside the middle, which is like maybe the custard or the jelly filling. It's a bit like, like for me, honestly, yes. When you eat a jam donut, it's a bit like, oh yeah, the outside is great, like there's sugar on it, and then it's like, oh, the jam is just too much, and I'm a bit like, yuck, I don't want any more of that. That's for me. That's kind of probably, maybe that's the best way you can probably describe Pabby, I feel. I honestly, that's actually the best way, and I just came up with that metaphor just now. But as I said, that's the only best way I can explain it. I feel like the other two, I guess even Shinrock, of course, because as I said about his introvertedness, he's probably more so like, I was gonna say, because if we even stay with the gooiness in the middle, I was a bit like, oh, maybe he's that too, but I'm not sure actually. He may more so be like, if I was to describe him, I meant in a metaphor, you're gonna be like, he's probably, I guess, a slice of cake with maybe a dollop of something on the side, probably. Because, he has an element where, because, you know what I mean? Or maybe, actually, no, I was gonna say that he's like the custard, the little custard fish that him and Yumi were fighting over. Then I was like, no, he's not that though. But I meant like, no, like I said with the dollop on the side, he's got to be that though, because again, it's because of the element of the fact that um what's it called? Yeah, because of the element of the fact that you can't really say, like, when you first meet him, do you know what I mean? That's why I mean he's a bit misunderstood. So I kind of do feel like you have to be like, oh yeah. It would probably be like trying something you've never tried before, and then of course, actually liking it in actuality. It probably would be like that. That's what I mean. It probably would be like that because I don't really think of any other. I mean, even, yeah, euphemism. I can't think of any other way to really say like what Shinrock really would be as a whole. Or like maybe also when you paint something and at first you hate it, but then like it comes together in the end. Maybe a bit like that too. That's what I mean. Maybe a bit like that too. Of course, when I said Barry's is the reverse, but that's what I'm saying. Like Shinrock is he's the other way. But yeah, so and afterwards I said that like the question does remain at the end of the day, who is the best man for her? Because obviously at this point, when I said that note, I was really confused because I really, I really didn't know. I was literally like, who is it going to be? And in actuality, I know people probably would have read like the webtoon and that. I didn't. I've only just started reading it now, actually, only because I'm really missing Yumi very much so. But like, I feel like maybe that's what I'm saying. People would know who she ends up with, but of course I didn't. So it was just the fact of the matter is, I just thought, oh, like she's just I guess trying all of these guys now, I was like, well, actually, who's Yumi's soulmate? And I feel like it can get a bit like that when you're watching a show like this. And you see her have what, like exactly two breakups, and then you get the last final season, you're a bit like, oh, like what's going to happen? Like, you know what I mean? Like, actually, who is the guy at the end? Like, literally, who is it? Because we're literally like, oh, these two guys so far, and you're like, okay, there wasn't really that much wrong with them, but then kind of, but then it's almost like, do you know what I mean? It's just like, who is the person out there? It's a bit, just a bit crazy. And obviously, when I even said in my write up, of course, I do feel like Shinrock probably was the best, anyways, out of all of them, if we're honest. Like I said, because of the golden question, and because of the fact, like, right, his, what was it, his principal tower or whatever, like, oh no, his shit, like, I think it was called the rules tower or something like that, so he had that tower in his village. So I'm a bit like, oh yeah, that would be, I feel like that, to me, that's enough anyway, because I do think that love makes you, what do you call it, makes you change. And you have to be willing to, that's what I said. I said that obviously in my write when I read it to you guys. You kind of have to be willing to literally abandon like everything. And so I mean, sounds crazy, but as I said, yes, that's what I mean. If you want to dip your toe in, you do have to. Do you know what I mean? You have to be a little, just at least a little bit open. You can't go in closed minded. That's what I'm saying. You can't do stuff like that. And this is the thing. I also felt like that was also Yumi and Woong's like, I guess, what was it? Yeah, nail. I feel like that was their nail too, in terms of just like, again, like I said, imperfection, like all this stuff. That's what I'm saying. I think that was it too, because it's like, oh yeah, you're literally just not accepting someone who they showcase themselves to be, and then, do you know what I mean? You're a bit like, oh, you're a bit like, well, no, I don't want to stay around for this actually. So it's a bit crazy, but hey ho. And then they both, I think they both came to terms with, like, like obviously afterwards in like season two, I like they both came to terms was a bit like, oh, we understand, like, you know what I mean, what the downfall was, what could have been better, and you know what I mean, how we would have gone about the better, yes, about improving. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, such a shame that you can't do that now, but hey, you know what I mean? At least you can both come to terms and say it, and like, I guess closure, because closure is important. Even though don't do you know what I mean, don't bet your life on it, because you won't always this is the thing, you won't always get it, but again, it's important. I think like Woon got to have that, and I was really glad for him, I mean, because obviously, seeing as he was pining for for Yumi in season 2, but I'm glad that he was able to have that like close, you know what I mean, that he could be like self-aware, to be like, right, he knows what went wrong, but like, he's happy and cheering for her. And especially remember when he was like buying her book, or no, yes, he bought all her books, and then obviously he kept writing comments on there, and I was like, that's really sweet. Because exactly. And I felt like, do you know what I mean? I don't really feel like, okay, you want your ex to, if you break up, right, you don't want your ex to continue to pine after you, but you do want them to at least be a supporter on the sidelines. That's enough. Do you know what I mean? You were like, we were together. The least you can do is cheer me on, and I will do the same for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, we never, there's actually, I think us, even as viewers, we never thought that like Woong's game would take off, but we're glad that it did. Do you know what I mean? And you're now this new and improved guy who, like, do you know what I mean? Like, as in, you shave all the time, you have like a really fancy car, and you've got a real big, like, you got a real big business, and it's flourishing. And I think, like, yeah, like, you're a CEO, and like, what a great, I guess, what is it, like, yeah, what a great kind of different kind of path for him anyway. So yeah, so obviously the next one, I kind of obviously already explained this, but I said that they had a lot of difficulties during the relationship. I said like money, appearance, we was close friend, and then obviously I said miscommunication, but I obviously explained that to you guys already. I said they never seem to communicate with each other properly, and that even when Yumi asked Wing about marriage, and he hesitated to answer her, and then didn't tell her quickly enough, which made her resort to shutting down and forgetting what she asked in the first place. And I felt like that scene also specific was so sad, because it wasn't even like, oh yeah, like Wing wasn't thinking about marrying her. It was just obviously it was buried down. So it was like it wasn't something on his priority list. But I do understand, like, as in, I do understand why Yumi was upset about it, because again, I just feel like, right, when you're with anyone, you kind of just want to know that, like, you just kind of want to know that they're thinking about it at least. That's the most we can say. Do you know what I mean? We're not saying marry us tomorrow, but like we would just like to know that it's on the cards somewhere, like in the near distant future. Kind of like how I guess, right, how Shinrock's proposal went, of course, because obviously he asked Yumi, and then Yumi kind of what was it? Yeah, looked back on the other two, and then it was kind of like, oh, Yumi was like, yes, well, we will get married, but we just won't get married yet. And I said, well, absolutely. That's obviously a great answer, because that's the best answer anyone can really, as I said, anyone can really ask for. Not like a complete flat out, oh no, I'm never going to marry you because I don't want to. Because that is crazy. That is crazy. And then, so next one I said, in terms of loving Woong and Yumi's relationship from an outsider's perspective, I do love how they managed to form a relationship which stems from a blind date and being complete opposites. So yeah, that's actually what I said. Literally, I said it to you guys before. I said about them being opposites. That's what I'm saying. And then of course, oh, obviously I felt like, of course, her and Shinrock were also polar opposites as well. Do you know what I mean? They literally were. They were nothing alike. So yeah, even though Yumi tried to say like they were, because obviously in the way of being like, oh yeah, I like being at home too. Do you know what I mean? I like watching movies at home too. We were like, you and Shinrock aren't the same. You might have like one or two like common interests, but that's it. Like I feel like, do you know what I mean? He's not gonna, like, you'll go outside and have like go to the pub and have drinks with like what was it, Ruby and her other friend. But it's like Shinrock gonna be doing that though. He doesn't get down like that. So it was literally like I already know that they are not. And then I said maybe it's because Woong's prime cell is the pride cell. So of course that's what I said. It was his pride and the fact that they didn't communicate well. I was actually like, why can't you guys do that? Just be open and honest. Um, and then I said people who feign ignorance, which was you, Babby, and I said his cells seem so lackluster, and that they wear sombreros and sing songs. And obviously, obviously, I don't mean it like that, but his cells weren't really giving me anything, if that makes sense. I just wasn't like feeling them again. Like as in there was like, it was three of them, and then of course, as I said, when Yumi's love cell got there, they obviously just like welcomed her and they sang her a song, and I was like, oh, but why though? And then I kind of, when I saw his village, I was like, is like, just what I mean, is Barry a serious contender? I don't know, because I'm not sure. That's what I'm saying. Even now, even when I think about it, because I was trying to think about like Shinrock's village and also Babby's, and then in the way that like we know that with Yumi, of course, like all of her cells play a part, right? But then I feel like with Shinrock and Babby, like not a lot of their cells are really like, I guess, at the front lines, if that makes sense. Like I feel like Shinrock cells again, it was basically only his rational cell and and the emotion cell, but that was it. Those were his only two hitters in the village. Then everyone else were all spectators, but as I said, the rational cell was the main one who was like pushing the thing and like helping Shenrock function during the day. And then as I said about Barry's cells, it was only like three cells, which obviously I believe were love so rational, and I think obviously emotion. So yeah, that was it though. So I was actually just like, I don't really know. And then I do feel like again, like, well, even with Woungs actually, if we also add him in, I felt like his cells were also on the front lines. Like that's what I mean in terms of like getting to gauge, I guess, how many cells like they all have and who plays a part. I felt like again you were able to understand his, but yeah, as I said, you didn't really get much of a grasp on like Barry's, and it was just a bit like, oh, like what is this actually? And then that's what I mean, then you just go to really understand like what he's like as a person. So yeah. And then I said that Yumi does have insecurities, mind you, that Woong did like his friend beforehand, which is like smoke to engulf the fire. But with Babby, it's like again, what I mean to say was like um Yeah, I just meant like I feel like with when it was Woong's thing with him and his friend, I was like, yes, she did overhear people say that Woong had a crush on her, but I was still a bit like, he's with you though. So like, do you know what I mean? It shouldn't even be a thing or something to worry about. I feel like exactly, you should only be worried. Like I don't know. I was gonna say like you shouldn't be worried if they're actually going to like break up with you, but if he's not, then you should actually just calm down. But then, of course, I was thinking this thing over right the other day, and I was thinking about the fact when Woong was or when they had that little argument, like when Yumi went inside the elevator. So I was thinking about that the other day, and I was thinking I didn't like how Woong acted in that scene, and that was probably the only time that I disliked him. Yeah. That was the only time I disliked him, honestly. Like, I feel like, again, because Woong obviously was at number one for me, like, obviously initially. But then it's like, yeah, I thought to myself, damn, like, I didn't like it when you did that because you were literally supposed to stand by Yumi, but instead he sided with the other girl, and I was like, that's weird. Even in a relationship with someone, you're not gonna do that, anyways. As I'm saying, even if this is the crazy thing. Yes, even if you think they're wrong, I'm just saying you're still not gonna do that because I feel like it's a big like red card if I'm honest. So that was me a bit like no, but that's probably the only time. But then I felt like right. So then when it came to Yumi and Babby, I was like, of course, I was like, right, Babby shouldn't have been swayed because the fact of the matter is he was acting like, oh yeah, yeah, he was acting like it was all innocent. But then the fact of the matter is, I think the fact of the matter was annoying me about Babby is I think that he knew that she had feelings for him and he just pretended to act innocent about it, and that very much annoys me because don't don't play dumb because it's like you do know you're just obviously for like yes, as I said when I said feigning ignorance, that's what he's doing because it's like knowing that, oh yeah, this girl is somewhat. And then with her also, because obviously she knew that Yumi and Babby were dating, and I was like, oh, that's really weird. And then she still decided to confess afterwards. And I was like, well, what are we doing? He already just told you. And it was just crazy. And then, oh, I feel like the way he went about it was just so strange because he was like, oh, well, now I'm going to have to leave where I was living. And we're like, what are you doing? Now you're just making this worse because that means him saying, oh, he has to leave. We're like, okay, why are you leaving though? Because you're running away? Like, do you know what I mean? And because you don't want to confront those feelings, even though you're not saying you have any, but it's still like there must be some there if you're thinking about like just what I mean. If you're thinking about backing up, then there has to be some kind of reason why. And then obviously I said Babby not remembering when his feelings for Yumi came about. That obviously annoyed me. This is what I said to you guys about how Shinrock answered that Yumi, and he answered her like he didn't even pause, he didn't hesitate. He came like he answered in about like what? I mean, I didn't count, but like it was pretty quick. Do you know what I mean? He was like, "Oh, Nuna, because you're pretty," and I said, "Yes, well done to you." I was just like, "Ding, ding, right answer." This is what I mean. You go in absolutely, but of course with Babby, that annoyed me because he froze, and then I feel like right, he froze, and then I think he had a flashback at the time, and then he obviously still just didn't say anything, and I was like, well, okay, whatever. And I feel like fact of the matter is, he liked her as well. If we're honest, he liked her when she was still with Woong, anyways. So he liked her when she was in a relationship, and that just that just goes to say that tells you his true nature there and then. Because why are you going off people who are in relationships? I just want to know. You know what I mean? He was acting so innocent then. Even Woong assessed it afterwards because when Babby was like, "Oh yeah, here's my jacket," and then obviously that's when Woong was drunk, and he was like, "Why is this guy giving you his jacket? Like this is weird." And we were like, "Yes, it is. Why is he trying to make a move on you, and your boyfriend is right there? He might be inebriated." Okay, but that's still strange. I'm like, that is crazy. So episode 10, both seasons break ups, and I found that really interesting. And I'm sure that's why they had that episode titled Deja Vu somewhere around there. But like it was like, yeah, I found it interesting that episode 10 was again like both episodes had cut offs. And it was interesting because I started thinking, imagine if season three had been longed out like that, that maybe we might have got that with her and Shinrock and they would have come back together. And although I don't really like that trope in K dramas because I find them a bit like tedious, you know, when the couple breaks up and then they get back together and like the next episode, it still would have been interesting to see. And like how I was saying, because of like how the season was like rushed and it only had eight, it just still would have been able to, it would have been great to get a better grasp of like Yubi and Shinrock's relationship, even though we did and we didn't, but like kind of. But I feel like a lot of the time, as I said about like in my write up about how in episode 7 they still weren't together, but then they got together in that episode. But it was just a bit like, well, this is literally, this is yeah, the second to last episodes. I was like, oh, this is actually not what we're supposed to be. Like we're actually supposed to be, we're supposed to be so much further right now. Like it's supposed to be all together in a way. And then that's why final episodes always tie everything all together. But I'm a bit like, no, this was not that's what I meant. I don't know why the director obviously said he felt like, do you know what I mean? Like the story played out right. I felt like it generally didn't. Like it was it was rushed and it could have been slower. Like it could have been much, much slower. Then I said don't go the cherry on top because obviously yeah, Babby was begging Yumi to stay and he held onto her suitcase and I was like, okay, but let go. Like but honestly, it's like no, you were like let go, but also like it was giving like, yeah, exactly when they say don't go and you're like, and then even Yumi looked at him like, oh, she was having a moment of doubt, and but then she still left. That's what I meant. I loved her so much for doing that because she stood on business. Her heart was wavering, but she still said, "Okay, I'm gonna leave." She was like, "No," she was still like, "Okay, no, I'm not. I'm not staying." And I was like, "Well done to you." And then oh, this is my next thought, which I kind of said to you guys about the jam analogy, where I said that you Babby is the too perfect guy who isn't perfect at all, and that he has flaws and can get swayed. I was actually like, oh yeah, you Babby, he because you're just a man, like it's just what you do. Like it was literally what you could understand, or even if we were to put him in a lyric, that would be that. Because it was like, yes, you were Yumi's number one fan from like from the very beginning, and then oh, like one woman comes up and like your head's all the way like do you know what I mean? Your head's all the way twisted. But like actually stay focused. And then Yumi said in episode 10, season 2, that what she wants is always the same. And there is this huge similarity in how both Woong and Babby managed to be swayed by another woman, even with Woong and his best friend. And of course, like I said, when I said to you guys before, right, yeah, with Woong, he just did that like so wrong because, yeah, as I said, it doesn't matter if that woman's your best friend, you do not take her side. That is crazy. Like we literally said, that is crazy. Get off the field because you made a mistake. And then oh, I also said second time that Babby's been dumped, and I said it says it all. And okay, I know this just feels like it's a huge bash on Babby, but it's not. Again, I just thought that was very important to me, because I thought to myself, like, I do know that with his relationship and that reporter lady, of course, like she didn't have time for him and whatever, and I think that's why she walked away. But it was still like I can bet any money, like Babby was like too clingy with her, and honestly, it's like oh, and then I also thought if she wanted to make effort with Babby, she would have done, but then he must not have been that great to do so. That's what I'm saying. I literally thought of it that way because that's what I said. Like, and I said that to you guys about busyness. I feel like people generally will make time for people that they care about. So in my head, I was like, well, she obviously didn't care about you very much because she was very willing to walk away. Like, do you know what I mean? She was willing to walk away. No, no, no problem. She's like, yes, I'm gonna. And she didn't care that you proposed to her either. She's like, take back the ring. That's it. She's like, I'm not staying. And I thought that was very interesting. Oh yeah, this was a note I already mentioned, which was about the no bittersweet farewell. Um And I think, oh, does it say when Bobby went to the States? Episode 12, I think. For yeah, fair enough. He was episode 12. And then the next thing I said, they did the marriage trope, which I hate so bad because marriage doesn't fix everything, which was episode 13. So the next episode after that. And that was very annoying. Like literally that's, I think, again, when I say back to my write up as well. And of course, oh yeah, I'm gonna put it in the description, but um yeah, it's like when people obviously will be like, yes, I did something wrong, but like marriage will patch this up and it's fine. It will mull things over and everything will be fine. And be like, don't worry. When you get the ring, you'll forget about it. And it's like, no. It's like, no, it's not going to work. And then this is a thing. And then they got back together. That was what annoyed me too. They got back together and they thought it was going to work the second time. And I was like, but if it didn't work the first, who's to say? Who's to say it will work the second? Do you know what I mean? Like, and I always thought to myself, like, I think to me, when I think about people getting back together afterwards, I've always thought, like, right, it's not going to work. Like, what's the difference this time, anyways? And I think I said this in my write up for Yumi Cell season 2, is that I was like, what was it? Yeah, is that I think when you break up, then I feel like stuff that happened in the first time will reappear in the second time too. And that's literally what happened. That was how the story played out. Like they got back together and then of course he saw that Diane was calling, yeah, she saw that Diane was calling him, and so she was like, oh wow, like why do you still why do you still have her number? So you know what I mean? So it was a bit like, okay, it was still the same thing, same pattern. So it was a bit like, gosh, it's just like it's just the same thing again. So it's not even like anything changes. So there we go. And then I said he did it before with his last girlfriend too, when they were semi unhappy, the one who was a reporter. Because that's what I mean. I thought about that too. And I was like, maybe that's what he did with her as well. He was like, oh, he can tell that this isn't working out. And then he just thought, oh, like if I ask her to marry me, maybe everything will change. And we're like, well, no, it's still gonna be the same. Like, do you know what I mean? And he would talk to Yumi about the relationship as well, or he did once or twice. And it was like, yeah, like, okay, but if you already can tell this is not working out, like, don't do that. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously I say, is Daeyoung a home wrecker, or was the house already broken? And I said already fragile between Yumi and Babby before they even met. And this is what I was saying to you guys about the traveling thing. Because I already felt like their relationship was on its last legs anyway. So I really at the end of the day, I was saying to you guys about how I felt like, yes, Diane was being reckless and all this and that, but as I said, I still don't feel like their relationship was all that strong. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't feel like because this is the thing when it comes to homewreckers as a whole, it's like honestly, people think that homewreckers are able to have such like, yeah, have such power that they're able to immediately come in and blow down the whole house. And I'm like, but no, there has to be some cracks in it. Do you know what I mean? There has to be some kind of cracks in it in order for it to fall apart. It's not like, okay, it can just happen overnight. It it doesn't, that just doesn't make sense. So obviously that's kind of what I felt like with them. So yeah. And right, I don't feel any like oh my gosh, it's such a shame that they broke up, because no. And then also she got to find Shinrock, so that was great. Do you know what I mean? She got to find who she actually needed, so that's fantastic. And then yeah, so that was literally and then obviously that's what I mean. So let's even go back to right to the ranking list. And I told you guys at the beginning. Now that we've gone through everything, I feel like it's like that's what I mean. I feel like it's very easy, as in now that all the facts are here, like the ranking list is correct. Like it would be interesting. I mean, if anyone wants to, yeah, say any of their views and to say like what their ranking list looks like, but it's just literally like I don't even think I could be, yeah, I could be swayed or persuaded. Like there's not anything like that. I feel like my ranking list is quite cemented, but I knew that it would change obviously by season two. I did know that because it was like, yeah, as obviously around season one, season two, I was like, I know my list is not going to stay like this all the way through. That would be crazy. And then I was also like, oh, if Shinrock's Yumi's soulmate, it kind of probably feels like he would have to take number one. Do you know what I mean? Not that, oh yeah, like I said to you guys, like I fully trust like Yumi's judgments or whatever, but it's still like, oh yeah, you think to yourself, if she's marrying this guy at the end of the show, then that really must mean that like he has a reason. He has a reason to take the top spot. Like there has to be something as to why he is there. Like you're not gonna just think that okay. You're not gonna think, oh yeah, he's that there's like again that he's just there to be there, but you would obviously factor everything in and be like, oh, that's why he's there. and that's why the other guys on the list aren't there. Do you know what I mean? And of course, I feel like also you could say when I thought about how I had Woong at number one before, it was probably just because he was Yumi's first love, and I feel like first loves, you know what I mean? They are so powerful, so I feel like it's so easy to get caught up in that. I mean, you're literally like this is the person's first love and you're like honestly this must be this must be the soulmate. And I feel like that's even why at season two when they broke up I felt like I was grieving a heart I was even I'm grieving a heart what's it heartbreak too, but I really wasn't. Like I was like I wasn't going through this, but it kind of felt like that because again I felt like I was so much yeah, I was so much I guess shipping for them, and I felt like they that was going to be their ending, like as in even yeah even Shinroku and Yumi getting married. I thought that like yeah I feel like Woon and Yumi would be there too, but this is the thing is actually you guys are wondering which was to Babi. I never thought that once. I never thought that once. No time ever. But but literally I did think that with Woong. And as I said, if you think about it, when I said about the miscommunication, if Yumi and Woong had communicated properly, they would have been fine. Everything would have been okay. Okay. And then they would have got the happily ever after. So there we go. They would have got the happily ever after and everything would have been good. So that's why you generally have to view it that way. But I mean, hey, opinions matter and ours may not align. Yours may be different than mine, but this is just obviously what I've got for you, and I've explained it in the 56 minutes. But thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next one.